What's going on YouTube? So today I wanted to talk to you about something that I did in 2017, which is purchase two investment properties within a span of, I would say, 18 months. That's right, two investment properties in 18 months. This is not clickbait, this is not some gimmick. It is exactly what I did. There was a bit of groundwork laid prior to that, but if you want to hear how I did it, I'm going to try and keep it to under 10 minutes. Stay tuned and let's get it rolling. Alright, so to give you some background information on how I did this, I started investing in property in 2004. That's when I first bought my first property. It was a duplex. I bought one of the duplexes. I bought it for $240,000. That's right, $240,000. That was in 2004 in the northern suburbs of Victoria. Now, in that instance, I was lucky. The unfair advantage was that my parents gave me the deposit for it, and I got the loan. At the time, it was about 5.5% interest rate, and I locked it in for 3 years. Unfortunately, due to the changes that I had in what I wanted to do, which was to become a pilot, I had to sell it in 2 years. And if I recall correctly, we sold it. When I say we, had to give my parents back the deposit. So I think it was about 275 or 290. I can't recall exactly what that amount was. It was either 275 or 290,000. Now that was in 2004. Ooh, now I'm probably messing it up. 2004 or 2006. Just a 2 year difference. Now, when I did sell that, what I was trying to point out was I went very recently to check the house and see the value of it. It's gone up to about 450, 500,000. Now, 2000, let's say it was 2006, 2016, that's 10 years. So in about 18 years, it's gone up only by 100%. So that's a very small increase if you look at it every year. So, I mean, did I miss out on selling that property? Probably not, because I went on to do other things. I ended up becoming a pilot. I ended up flying in 3 different countries, getting my pilot license in 3 different countries. And when I got back to Australia, obviously there was a change in what I wanted to do again. So I got back to Australia from Sri Lanka, and that was in 2007, 2008. Got back to Australia, and in 2010, I bought my first property. Now, again, my parents gave me the deposit for that property, so it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. The agreement was that my parents get to live there, just pay the bills and things like that, and I was covering the mortgage. Now, at the time, I paid 390,000. This was in the western suburbs. It's a suburb called Tarneit. In 2010, Tarneit was dead, and I mean, like, it was still full of farmland. There was still canola flowers as far as I could see. I remember like driving through. It was pitch black. And a lot of people were questioning my thought process behind it. Now, I can't remember the person that I spoke to, but someone was saying, hey, you need to invest in the western suburbs. At the time, Sunshine and Werribee, those areas, Hoppers Crossing, were considered a bit iffy in terms of like who was hanging around and things like that. But I was told, and I did some research as well, because Melbourne Port was really close by, the western suburbs were going to explode. Now, in 2010, I bought the property for 390,000, and the second unfair advantage was I couldn't afford the $390,000 loan, so it was taken under my brother's name. Yes, I got lucky. My family is amazing. I wouldn't have been, oh, I'm not in this place without my family, because they've done a lot for me, and I always appreciate it. And that was one of the key aspects as well. So my brother got the loan. We were both on the title at the time, but the loan was completely under his name. Now, not many people would do that for someone else, but he was happy to help me out. Got the loan while I was working. It was a casual job. I think, on about 50 grand a year. Um, but he was happy to get the loan, and I was gonna pay the loan. So till about, I think it was 2013, probably 2013 is when I transferred the property back to my name. I had to pay stamp duty, which is a bit of a cost, on a valuation of, at the time it was like 410,000. So that's the groundwork for the first property. Then what happened was, I moved to Sydney, and when I moved to Sydney, I decided, that was in 2013, I decided to pursue a career in freight forwarding. The job I got was, the starting salary was 45,000 a year for the first actually 6 months, and then after that I got up to 55 grand. And I went, before I did this video, I wanted to check my salary so that you guys are aware of how I earned. And my ultimate goal is to make the point that you don't need to earn a lot to get into property. Yes, it was earlier, but I'll get on another video and show you other areas which are still affordable on a $60,000-$70,000 salary. Now, I was on 55K, and then in 2015 I was on 60. 2017 was when I had the exponential growth. Between 2015 and 17, I was on 85 to 90K when 2017 hit. But that was again because of my hard work, which is another video. But that's how my pay went from 45 grand in 2013 to 90 grand in 2017. Yes, I doubled my income. And as Jim Rohn says, the salary, the ladder is already there. You just need to know how to bring value to certain companies, and they will, and if you're in the right company, they will recognize your value and they will pay you for it. So that's what happened to me. So within 4 years I doubled my salary. Now, coming back to how the properties worked, what I did was, so since 2013, my goal was to invest in property. So I started saving. I budgeted like crazy. And when I say I budgeted like crazy, I lived by what Dave Ramsey says, live like no one else so that you can live like no one else. That's exactly what I did. My grocery bill was $50. If I ever went out on a week, I would make sure that, usually if I went out, I would spend about $150 to $200. Now that is roughly 4 weeks of my grocery bill. So the way I adjusted it was, if I go out once a month and I spent that $200, what I did was I would cut down on my groceries even further, which I somehow did. I mean, I pre-cooked my meals, I batch cooked meals, ate a lot of tuna cakes, or fish cakes, homemade fish cakes, $2 pasta, cheap tomato sauce or the pasta sauces, and I budgeted it, and I somehow made it work, and I saved a fair bit of money. Roughly every year I saved about $7,500 to about $15,000 of my salary, depending on which year it was. So when it came to 2017, another thing that happened was I was able to get a fairly good tax return because of my property and the depreciation and the negative gearing that it had. For people that don't know negative gearing, again, I will make some points of this video on the topics that I keep saying, which are separate videos. but I'll make a video of how negative gearing actually helped me. But it's not actually helping me at this point in time. When you start owning your own business and you pay yourself, negative gearing is not that much of a big deal. But then if you're on a salary and someone else is paying you and there is tax withheld on your payslip, the ball game is very different again. Now that's a bit in depth, which I would try and do at another time, another stage in another video. So the point there was that I got negative because of negative gearing. I got a good tax refund, and every year I think I was getting about 5 to about 7 grand back. Again, these numbers are very vague. It could be less or more, but that's what I recall, because I remember the overall numbers. So I saved between 7.5 to 10 grand every year. Did it go up to probably 7.5 to 15 grand that every year? So between 2013 and 2017. So when I wanted my first house, I bought my first, or actually it'll be the second investment property. Mind you, I was renting a studio apartment for $300 a week. I bought the house. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath house that was built in I think it was like 58 or 59. Weatherboard house, fairly run down, and I got a great deal because it was a deceased estate property. I got it for $95,000. Believe it or not, yes, this was $95,000. So the deposit was minimal, the loan was minimal, the rent was really good. So the rent was covering the repayments of the mortgage. So it was a break-even property, and that, I reckon, was the best purchase I ever made until today. So $95,000. There was obviously, again, there's still things that you can negatively gear on properties that break even in terms of mortgage and the rent, and that's something you need to sit with your accountant and work on. So I bought that in like the first half of 2017. So what that did was, between the house that I had in Thani, Victoria, and this house, this was in Morwell, Victoria, which is about 200k south of Victoria. And this property, the negative gearing of those two properties, because so the way I bought the $95,000 property was I needed 20%. So 10% was 9.5 grand. So 20 grand. I think it was like $23,000 all up I needed, or 25,000 all up I needed to buy the property. And those savings between 2013 and 2017 got me over the line for that. I had plenty of money in the bank for that, and 25 grand was just done and dusted. And because the banks could see the heavy savings rates, those days, that's the only thing. I mean, obviously you've got the borrowing power, and then you got the savings that the bank needs to see a good history of savings. I got the loan, especially because I got lucky. As I said, in January of 2017, my salary went up to 90k. So that was a big support for me to get the borrowing power increase. So I had the 390k loan for the Thani property, and then I needed only 70 grand or 80 grand for the other property. I did push it a bit more, and I think I did end up getting 90 or 100,000 on that particular loan. I can't recall. I think that was based on doing some renos. So when I purchased that property, by June 30 of 2017, I got further or a higher tax break, and again a better tax return. And at that point, because it was on the 90K salary, I think I got about a fair bit of money back on that particular year as well. So what that did was I purchased another property. This was again in Tarneet, and that property was for 329,000 or 330,000, somewhere around there. Again, I needed 66 was the 20% deposit plus say 5% on stamp duty and other expenses. So what, 75 grand. So the way I got that deposit was, I had my savings, then I had my tax return, and then the extra money I borrowed from the second property made up the deposit for this third property. So in 2017, first half of the year, I bought the 95K house, and then the second half of the year, I bought the $330,000 property in Tarneet. And that's how I did it. So I've gone up to about 15 minutes. I couldn't do it any less than that. I'm going to try and wrap it up. So the key points were, the biggest point was the savings. So live like no one else so you could live like no one else. By 2017, so first house was in 2010. Within 7 years, I bought 3 properties. Now I'm at 4 or 5 properties. At one point I had 7, but then I sold some, which is again another story. But yeah, so I did that with the starting salary of 45 grand. There was the key turning points were, one, my family's support financially to get my first property. Number 2, my work ethic and how I brought value to the company, which doubled my income within 4 years. And number 3, heavy savings and like literally living like I was living on a $25,000-$30,000 salary, and I saved as much as I could because my ultimate goal was like accumulating property as much as I could. So if you want to take away 3 things on how to get your next property, or anyone that's starting off to buy another property, is try to get some support from someone. Don't need it, but if you can get it from your family or your friends, or there's a guarantor that someone might sign off on a property, that's a leg up. If you take that out, bring value to your company that you're working for. I mean, work more than you're getting paid for. Find ways to save money for the company, and bring more business. If that's something it's possible or capable of doing. And number 2, save. Live off 30-40% of your pay and save the rest of it. Don't worry about the new iPhone and the new laptop and the new MacBook and the new car and all that rubbish. Get a reliable 15-year-old car and just work at it. And as soon as you start working at it, it's